Hey, what's up, guys? Coming at you live from the river. It's been forever since I've done one of these, just because I've been too busy and haven't really had time. So I wanted to share a reading video with you guys. This time I have a book called Keeping the Feast. This one is by Milton Brasher Cunningham. And oh man, I've been getting wrecked reading this book. It's about a lot of different things. Let me tell you about Milton Brasher Cunningham. He is a writer, a chef, teacher, minister, small urban farmer, musician, husband, and keeper of schnauzers who lives with his wife Ginger in Durham, North Carolina. He writes regularly at www.don'teatalone.com, sharing both reflections and recipes. Through 10 cities and 5 different countries, food, faith, family, and friends keep him inextricably connected. And so anyway, I got this book, and it just was jumping off the shelf at me the other day. I have quite a few that I've been supposed to be reviewing, and just now I'm finally getting around to doing that, so hopefully Mike Morrell will forgive me. But anyways, so I was reading this, and he's talking about communion, and this really struck a chord in me because we all shared in the Eucharist together at church yesterday, as well as having 4 guys get baptized, which was really cool. But anyway, it was just very appropriate that we did those 2 things together. So anyway, he's telling a story about they're all doing communion, and part of the story is that someone has to go and invite you to go to the table with them, and you share the elements together. And he's telling the story. He says, we sat facing each other. He tore off a big piece of bread, held it up at eye level, and said, "You know what blows my mind, man? Everyone down through Christian history has sat at this table. We get baptized differently, we learn about life differently, we worship differently, but we all eat here. So right now we're here with everyone who has ever been here before us and everyone who will come after us. That blows my mind. We ate and drank together and then stayed at the table watching as kids came and went, eating and drinking and laughing and crying, a visual and visceral symbol of all that gets handed down and handed on at the table. Like the stories in the walls of that little row house and the memories that have worked their way into the fibers of our old farm table, so the simple act of breaking bread and sharing the cup offers us the chance to see Jesus, to recognize Christ in one another, to tell our stories, and remember we always have a place to eat." So yeah, there's a table from which we all get to feast, and for me personally, just reading this, all of a sudden I realized, this is just a confession, guys, but I realized that I, in my own way, have been critical of others, and, you know, really it's like, it's stupid, right? I mean, just because I may believe different than other people, or worship differently than they do, or whatever. I mean, we're all brothers and sisters, and I just want to confess to you guys that I apologize for some of the things that I've said lately and some of the critical statements that I've made. It was really sort of a humbling thing for me to read this and just sort of take a look in the mirror, you know, and think that's a good thing for us to do sometimes. It causes us to realize, like, when we get out of line, you know. And I want to stay on the track. I just want love to be the bottom line in everything in my life. So yeah, anyway, that's all I really wanted to say about that. But the other part that I wanted to read is he says, one of the sentences that lives deep in my memory and rises to the surface is from the liner notes of a friend's record from so many years ago that it actually was a record. And this is the title. It says, "Thanks to God, the ultimate spendthrift." And then he has the definition of spendthrift, which is a person who spends possessions or money extravagantly or wastefully. Prodigal. Perhaps it's a stretch to think of the words wastefully and prodigal as descriptive of God. Whoa. But then again, look at the extravagance of a sunset or an iris or a bluebird. Whether as individuals or institutions, we are pointed towards self-preservation, yet we belong to a God who is not a save it for a rainy day kind of God. And then he goes on to say, when the one we call the rich young ruler came to Jesus and asked what it would take to follow him, Jesus looked at him and loved him, the gospel account says, and then told him to give away everything he had and come along for the ride, to be a spendthrift. He couldn't do it. He said, I was a part of a discussion at our church around how many cups we needed to fill for communion one Sunday. The question was asked in the spirit of not wanting to be wasteful. I couldn't see past the possibility that someone would reach for a cup and there wouldn't be one because we had been too cautious. As I want to do, I moved to metaphor. For me, the fuller the tray, the better the image. When we serve people at UMD, which is his church's initials, we make a point, and sorry I don't remember what they are, we make a point of having enough for seconds, and we always try to leave leftovers. How I wish we came to the altar expecting to eat more than a small hint of bread. What if we came around for seconds? We have plenty. Come and eat again. Drink 1, drink 2, or 3, or 7, and then you might end up with a Corinthian church. There's enough to go around and then some because we belong to God. That was a joke I threw in there. He didn't say that. We talked about the Corinthians at church yesterday before we took communion. But anyway, I just thought it was funny. There's enough to go around and then some because we belong to God. Like, that's where 444 came in for me. That's where God started speaking to me from 2 Kings 4:44 about extravagance, and that he's a spendthrift, that, you know, he gives extravagantly and wastefully. It's like way more than enough when God does something, you know. And we just get him so backwards sometimes, like he's pinching his pennies and like we need to be penny pinchers and all of this, and it's like, no, it's completely the opposite of that. He's just so extravagant. He's such a good God. He's so giving. And man, I just come down here to hang out by the river and I mean, just to breathe it all in, and it just really helps me to get back in touch with how big he is, and looking up at the sky and hearing all the birds chirping around and seeing the fish in the water, and it's just, oh man, it's great. And yeah, so anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys. This is going to be on my blog as well, and if you want to get this book, I'm sure it's available on Amazon. And once again, that's Milton Brasher Cunningham, and the title of the book is Keeping the Feast. The subtitle is Metaphors for the Meal. There are also some really awesome recipes in here. One that I can't wait to try is he calls it Uncle Milty's Guinness and Chocolate Chili. So I'm gonna have to give that a whirl. But anyways, yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed. Love you so much. Blessings on all of you, and take care. Peace.